I'm Ted Keys, your host and top freight agent training expert here in Southern California. Welcome to this edition of your Freight Sales Success Training. After watching and applying it, you'll move more freight efficiently, effectively, and effortlessly, and make more money financially. And if you have any questions, call me Ted Keys at 626-309-9141. Today's training topic comes from the front lines of my 30-plus years of business, sales, and freight moving success. Now enjoy watching, learning, and applying. Hello and welcome everybody to my Tuesday conference call. I'm Ted Keys, your host and top freight agent training expert here in Southern California. This is a free, high-powered meeting I hold live every Tuesday for top-producing, new, and struggling freight agents at 2 p.m. Pacific Time and 5 p.m. Eastern Time. On the call today, I will show you how to move more freight efficiently, effectively, and effortlessly so you make more money financially. And after the call, go to my website, tedkeysonline.com, to hear more of my podcasts, read more of my blog posts, watch more of my videos, and while you're there, visit my Freight Sales Success Store for top-notch freight moving products to truly explode your freight business today. When you arrive at my Freight Sales Success Store, you will see a host of products that are available. First one you'll see there is my Freight Sales Success Guide for beginner and struggling freight agents. I do, however, provide this for when you join our top producing freight sales office. Another product you'll see there is my Freight Sales Success Quotes. These quotes provide you with daily motivation to do what's important, to get on the phone and connect and build relationships with the marketplace. Third product you'll see there is my Freight Sales Success Training. This is a 17 video course. It'll take you literally from knowing little or nothing about freight to moving your first freight load and beyond. You'll also see there for sale again is my Freight Sales Success Skills. This product provides those intricate little skills that are required to handle different situations that you come in contact with. However, my Freight Sales Success Skills, along with my other products, are available today for purchase in my Freight Sales Success Store. And while you're there at my store taking in all this free information, on any page on my website you happen to be on, just over to the right, go over to the right and enter your contact details. By doing that, you'll receive your email invite to this and every call. Not only that, you'll receive the attachments that I provide on each and every call. And also, just as a freebie for opting in, you'll receive my free report. Again, it's just a free report. 11 ways freight agents will increase their income. Go through this as a beginning, struggling freight agent. This report will assist you in increasing your income. And just so you know, that report there has been downloaded thousands of times before. And if you have any questions whatsoever about what I went over today, or more importantly, more specifically, are you ready to join our top producing freight sales team? Then give me, Ted Keys, a call. I'm at 626-309-9141.
Today's call topic is how to establish credibility with your freight prospects. How to establish credibility with your freight prospects. For those of you that received an email from me today, in that email I listed a host of attachments down at the bottom. Go ahead and scroll down to those attachments before I get into my call. As usual, I'm going to go over each of those attachments one by one, starting with, if you just open up that first attachment down on the bottom there, I always start with our agent leaderboard. As you can see, this is our leaderboard from last month. As usual, I want to congratulate everybody that's got their name on this board. Your goal as an LDI agent, your goal is to see your name on this board. Not only that, but move your name up the board. Move your name up spaces so you can see the progress that you're making. I'm going to go ahead and move forward from there. Back to our attachments. Go ahead and open up that second attachment. Go ahead and open up that second attachment. Now, as I said earlier, our topic today, how to establish credibility with your freight prospects. One of the best ways that you can, well, get to build your relationship faster and faster is to establish credibility from the get-go with your prospects. Instead of just going through this routine of calling somebody, getting their email, and then start building, there is a way how you establish credibility faster and faster. But let me just explain here on how to establish credibility with your freight prospects. Timeline, 30 seconds. Let me say that again, 30 seconds. That's how much time you actually have to make an impact, add value, and engage your customer when you call them for the first time. So how can freight agents engage a prospect that quickly? Because that's a short amount of time, 30 seconds. Well, the way how they can do it quickly is by bumping up their credibility, and that is making an instant connection starts with building credibility early in the process of calling them and then maintaining it throughout your prospect's decision process. Now, failing to do this can be fatal. As explained by Brian Tracy, Brian Tracy goes on to explain, he goes on to say that if you mention or discuss your product, service, or price before you've established a high level of likability, trust, and credibility with a prospect, you're going to kill your sale. Ouch. So, to avoid screwing up those first 30 seconds, I'm going to go over this list of 5 things that every freight sales agent must do to quickly establish credibility with your prospects when you make contact with them for the first time. The first point, very, very important, is to be authentic, and that is being human. That is, authentic and honest is crucial. As Bernardo Torrado, an industrial psychologist, points out, being authentic is the key to developing rapport. And believe me, as I've seen in many a prospecting call, people can sense a phony or even your phoniness a mile away. So, while the phrase, when you say this, I don't know, and I mean it, I don't know, those 3 words, when you say that phrase, I don't know, it often gets a bad rap. It can oftentimes be beneficial when you say it, because that you're being authentic when you say that phrase, I don't know, because there's going to be a lot of times when you will get asked questions that you don't know. But by saying I don't know can actually make you seem actually human to your prospects. It gives you an opportunity to connect with your prospect because you're being authentic. You're just basically saying, hey, I don't know the answer to your question. Let me get back to you. And during your relationship building process, you're going to ask your prospect some questions that they may not have the answer to either. Excuse me. They're going to do the same to you. If you're truly unsure of an answer, go ahead and say so. Again, this is all part of being authentic. This gives you the opportunity to dive into the question that they're asking you, research it, and here's the big thing, following up with your prospect again, which will boost both your authenticity and your credibility. So here's one of the most biggest pieces of advice I could give you is be authentic. If they ask you a question that you don't know, then say, I don't know. However, I'll get back to you. What a great way to follow up with your prospect. Second thing in building your credibility is to be punctual. Be punctual. Does this sound like someone you know or work with by being punctual? In a recent study, 15 to 20% of the American population is consistently late, especially when it comes to work, right in their own professions. An example I can give you by being punctual is when I get on the call here, my recorder tells me how many people are on the line. Well, after the call, when I see actually how many people are on the line, it doubles. Why? Because people come to the call late. There's a great example of being punctual. Punctuality matters a lot to people, and believe me, it does to me. Being punctual implies that you care, that you're organized and ready to assist with your prospects' challenges. Now, today's freight customers have come to expect punctuality, as they should. Wouldn't you agree? Nobody wants to take time out of their day to wait for a freight sales agent or, more importantly, a truck to show up at their dock on time. That's exactly why, if you're a Seinfeld fan, they made an episode entirely around waiting for a cable guy. Does that refresh any of your minds if you saw that episode on Seinfeld? If you're in sales, make sure you're on time to meetings, whether they're with somebody in your company, a prospect, or most important, a customer. If the person you're meeting is taking time out of their day, you should match their effort by showing up on time, whether it's for a meeting, especially to get a truck there at their dock on time as well. If punctuality is a challenge for you, you might consider using a calendar service like Google Calendar. It can be synced with your phone, and it'll send you reminders to stay on top of your meetings. You can choose to get an alert 10 or 30 minutes before your appointments, among other options that this service will do for free. Again, it's called Google Calendar. So the second point is to be punctual. The third point, again, let me say that again. The second point is be punctual. The third point in building credibility fast. An important one is watch your grammar. Watch your grammar. Believe it or not, the biggest pet peeve when it comes to introductory emails is bad grammar. This is a survey conducted by HubSpot. 40% of respondents said that bad grammar was the most obnoxious pitfall when it comes to receiving initial emails, followed by an overly long message, and then those lacking a clear question. That's why that email sample that I give you every week is short and concise. What are you moving today? Thank you. As he explains in a Harvard Business Review, this is by Kyle Wiens. This is the CEO of iFixit. He refuses to hire people with poor grammar based on the principle, sloppy is as sloppy does. Here's an example that I use when it comes to punctuality and grammar. Just getting people to get off their butt and do something. When somebody has an interest in becoming a freight agent, for me, I specifically explain in my emails that after you get my third main email, to call me. If you're emailing me after that third email, you won't hear from me. Why? Because I tell you to call me. If you don't call me, what that tells you is you won't pick up the phone and call prospects either. Now, what does this have to do with grammar? Well, not as much as when as Kyle Wiens talks about being sloppy. If you're sloppy initially, he knows that you're going to be sloppy in the process after he hires you. If you don't call me, I know that you won't pick up the phone and call prospects. That's why you won't hear from me if you attempt to email me. Now, bear with me here, folks. Wiens reasons that a person who pays attention to their grammar is more likely to pay attention to other small details, making them a more fastidious and all-around better employee. Remember that term, sloppy is as sloppy does. If you're sloppy now, there's no reason you're going to change in the future, and I agree with Kyle's perspective there. So Odds are your prospects have similar feelings when freight sales agents are sloppy and unclear. And in freight sales, it's crucial to have excellent grammar because of the logic that Weens adheres to. Again, going back to sloppy is as sloppy does. If we let our prospects know that we're serious, they must be able to understand our grammar and what we're attempting to tell them, either over the phone or in our email. So the third thing is watch your grammar. If you use great grammar, that will build your credibility faster and faster. The fourth thing to build credibility is to be informed. Be informed. Number 4. Going into each call with the same script for each prospect is no longer working. It's time to change how informed freight sales agents are about their prospects and their freight service. Important. Understanding your prospect, who they are, what they do, and how your freight service can assist them is a tremendous way to build credibility during your sales process. 1 second here, folks. On the other hand, lack of understanding with your prospects can be so detrimental. For instance, studies show that hearing our own name has several psychological benefits. So by calling your prospect or their business the wrong name causes your credibility to immediately plummet. Another way you can use knowledge to build credibility is to become intimately acquainted with the ins and outs of the freight service you're selling. Here's an example. Knowing the difference between two kinds of flowers, if you're a gardener, can be the deciding factor between converting a lead or losing a prospect. That is just one example. Knowing the difference between two types of flowers approaching a gardener. So those of you that are moving nursery items, think of how important it is, based on that example, how it is to know what nursery plants and shrubs can be moved with your freight service. Another way you can use knowledge to build credibility is to become intimately acquainted. Excuse me. Let me rephrase that. Top-notch freight sales agents sell their service every day. They study it, and they research their prospects as best they can before calling them. That's why I am constantly repeating myself in building rapport to research your prospect, research your customers. That's why number 4, be informed, is so important to build credibility fast with your prospects and customers. Number 5, the 5th point is to borrow some credibility. Number 5, borrow some credibility. Instead of starting a call to a shipping decision maker with, "Hey, I'm Ted. Do you have a second to talk about your freight requirements?" You can borrow credibility by saying, here's a great example, "I'm Ted from Logistic Dynamics. Do you have a second to talk about your freight requirements?" Believe me, the name Logistic Dynamics has high credibility in the freight industry. Leveraging credibility that Logistic Dynamics already has in the freight industry goes a long way. Another technique is to reference one of your customer successes. For example, if your company is assisted in supplying your customers get the steel materials they require than any other freight broker, resulting in more revenue and an efficient operation, then say so. Then tell your prospect. It never hurts to bring statistics to the call. Not everyone is interested in statistics, but you know what? By saying it, it can't hurt you. So finally, another example. If you're using LinkedIn to find prospects, mentioning that you share mutual connections with your prospect is another quick way to establish credibility, and that's according to the company Ring DNA. While your prospect may not know you personally, you both know the same Aaron Jones very well, and this common tie can assist. This common tie can assist launching your conversation forward. So, just mentioning, hey, we both know Aaron Jones. Well, you are throwing it out there. There's a high probability that your prospect may not know Aaron Jones, but just by saying that, what is your prospect going to say? Aaron Jones, who's that? Well, no, they're going to say, yeah, okay, Aaron Jones, yeah, that rings a bell. So building a connection is based on likability, trust, and credibility. While I don't guarantee that you'll become best friends with everyone you apply these methods to, I can guarantee you'll boost your credibility, come closer to, and make the sale or the deal. Let me go over these 5 points one more time. How to establish credibility with your freight prospects. The first point is to be authentic. The second, be punctual. The third, watch your grammar. The fourth, be informed. Fifth, borrow some credibility from the company that you're representing. 5 great points to boost and build your credibility faster and faster and faster. Okay, let's move on from there. We're gonna move on to our Remember series, opening up that third document. Remember when you're calling your prospects and customers. Again, all these remembers go hand in hand with building credibility faster. The first one is identify yourself fully to the gatekeeper. Give them your first, your last name, and the company when asking for the shipping decision maker. Let me say that again. Identify yourself fully to the gatekeeper, first and last name, and your company when asking for the shipping decision maker. Here's the thing. They're going to ask these questions anyway. So when the gatekeeper asks, identify yourself fully. First name, last name, company, when you're asking for the shipping decision maker. And most of all, act like you know who the shipping decision maker is. Hey, this is Ted Keys with Logistic Dynamics. Is John available? Now, I said that example where John is a shipping decision maker, but say it in a way where you know the shipping decision maker. Let's go ahead and move on from there. Open up that fourth attachment. One moment. And that states, remember when you're calling your prospects and customers that your opening statement to your prospects must always answer their question, what's in it for me? Remember, we don't call them to satisfy our own needs and requirements. We call prospects to satisfy their needs and their requirements. So when you talk to them for the first time, whatever you say, that opening statement, it must answer their question, what's in it for me? Meaning, what pain are you going to solve for them today? What's in it for me? Boy, take this printed out, post it on your wall. What's in it for me? Not you, but your prospect. Let's go ahead and move on from there to our third remember document. Remember when you're calling your prospects and customers. To make the sale easier, as I talked about earlier, establish rapport first. Make the sale easier, establish rapport first. How do you do that? Find common interest. When building your relationship, people are much more likely to buy from a friend than a salesperson. So when you can get that relationship to where they view you as a friend, the loads will start coming more and more. Of course, you got to prove yourself first by moving their freight initially. But anyway, to make your sale easier, establish rapport first. Let's go ahead and move on from there to our sixth total document. Fourth one in our Remember series here. Remember when you're calling your prospects and customers that people love to talk about themselves. Let me say that again. People love to talk about themselves. What do you do in the process? Well, find a subject, idea, or situation that you're both interested in. You may not have an interest in it, but if you can find something that they're interested in, it's all the better. Once you find that, you won't be able to stop them from talking. What a way to build credibility fast. Find a subject, idea, or situation that you're both interested in, or especially that they're interested in. When you do, they won't stop talking. Why? Because we love to talk about ourselves, plain and simple. That's just the way how we're created. Let's go ahead and move on from there to our last document. Our last document states, remember when calling your prospects and customers, again, getting back to building credibility fast, your prospect's perception of you rises in proportion to how much you know about them and their challenges. How many times do I say that's when we really start moving freight for individuals? When we solve a need, when we solve some pain that they're going through. So I'll say it again, your prospect's perception of you rises in proportion to how much you know about them and their challenges. A great way to do this is use the gatekeeper to collect that valuable information. If your shipping decision maker's not in, go ahead, ask the gatekeeper. Could you tell me what if your shipping decision maker is struggling right now in moving a particular lane or a particular load? All they can say is no, or all they can do is tell you. But once you get a hold of them, and once you start moving their freight, their perception of you will rise in proportion to how much you know about them and their challenges. So make sure you know what they do. Talk about something that they're interested in. That will build credibility faster and faster with your prospect. So, great topic today. Again, that topic is how to establish credibility with your freight prospects. Moving forward to our finish here, if any of you have any questions involving what I went over today, feel free to give me a call, Ted Keys at 626-309-9141. If you have any questions involving becoming a top-notch freight agent for Green Meadows Productions, I am your guy to speak to, Ted Keys, 626-309-9141. If you have any questions involving our top-notch freight system that we actually utilize to move our freight, that is a question for my wife, Maria. Same number, 626-309-9141. Thanks for putting up with my raspy voice today. I will talk to you all again real soon. Take care. God bless. See you on the next call next Tuesday. Bye-bye.